and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by faxing notice of the meeting to the Atlantic City Press, Star Ledger, Camden Courier, and Atlantic County Record on January 7th, 2022. Mr. Cheek?
Here.
Ms. Hopkins?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mr. Patali?
Here.
Mayor Kane?
Here. All right, I'd ask that at this point you join me in a moment of silence for private reflection. And I do ask that you keep the people of Ukraine in your thoughts and prayers. All right, thank you. Next, we'll move on to guest presentations. I believe we do not have any this evening. So we'll move on to proclamation. Stacy, would you come up, please? Mrs. Lynn.
Can we have the mic?
You can stand out your way, sorry.
Thank you. We have a proclamation tonight, and this one has been well earned over the many years I've known Stacy. Whereas Stacy Wellington has been a lifelong resident of the Township of Hamilton, and she has honorably and faithfully served the township in many capacities for the past 16 years. Whereas when she began her employment with the township in May 2006, she was assigned as a clerk in the Public Works Department, then Tax Collection Office, then the Finance Department. She was assigned for accounts payable and purchasing position in 2015, Deputy CFO in 2017, and Finance Assistant 2021. Are you sure you haven't run the township? Okay, whereas from 2001 to 2017, Ms. Wellington has served the township community as a firefighter with the Weymouth Volunteer Fire Department and the Mays Landing Volunteer Fire Department. Whereas after all her success and hard work, Stacy has decided to leave the township to enjoy a well-earned retirement that will be marked by more time spent with family and friends. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey, on this day, March 21st, 2022, recognize Stacy Wellington. In honor of her devotion to the residents of the Township of Hamilton, we take this opportunity to express our heartfelt appreciation for a job well done, and we hereby offer to Stacy our congratulations on her up-and-coming retirement and our best wishes to her for continued success, happiness, good health in the years to come. Stacy.
Go ahead.
Come on, just a few.
Yeah, just a few.
Stacy, a few words.
Exactly. I'm surprised
That's why I
she's
said
quiet
no.
at this moment.
You too, Carl.
Well, Stacy, we thank you for everything. My days with Stacy go back to skating at Mrs. Link's rink, so that's been a long time, and we really appreciate everything you've done here for the township, and we wish you tremendous success in your new move. So
you.
she's not only leaving her job, but they're moving several states away, so it's a big change, big life change, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Right?
We'll miss you. There we go.
Good luck.
It's hard to stick it in there.
All right, next we will move on to addition, deletion of late agenda items to be considered for action tonight. First, we have 8K, resolution of the Township of Hamilton expressing opposition to any legislation that unconstitutionally infringes upon an individual's Second Amendment rights. Do we have anyone here from that organization this evening? Okay, then I would move to have that. We're going to also add 9B, resolution appointing Angela D. Harris Moore as Planning Board alternate number 1 for the unexpired term ending 12/31/22. And we will be adjourning to executive session, redevelopment contract negotiations, attorney-client privilege. I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion by Ms. Hopkins. Second by Mr. Patali. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Next thing we'll move on to is number 2, early public comment on agenda items. Do we have anyone signed up this evening? No. Then let's move on to 3. This evening we are going to do a presentation on the municipal budget. So with that, I'll turn the floor over to our CFO, Cynthia. Ms. Lindsay.
Thank you, Mayor and Committee. Tonight I'm going to present to you the 2022 budget introduction presentation. As everybody knows, the whole country is experiencing inflation. And as we move through what the U.S. Economy has given us, that we have a 7.5% inflation rate, which is the highest since 1982. With the inflation brings many challenges to the introduction of the budget. And that goes with the rising prices of gasoline, cars, supply chain issues, housing prices, food prices, everything is going up around us. And this budget that is presented to you tonight reflects a 0% tax increase.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
This budget that is presented to you tonight includes a 0% tax increase.
Thank you.
That's a phenomenal job with the 7.5% increase in inflation to not raise taxes.
Yes.
Hats off to you guys. That's excellent.
We do have a legally balanced budget, $28,691,7334. And what's in that budget? Of course, we're going to talk first about the tax rates within the community. The county and the schools, we haven't estimated amounts. They have not struck their tax levy yet, so we're anticipating a 2% just because that's what's required by law. But our local purpose tax levy is set at $18,277,837.10. The proportionate of taxes is mostly towards the school, and then to the municipality, and then to the county. The levy the assessed values drives the levy. And this year, we were able to see an increase in our assessed valuation of $13 million. This is a breath of fresh air, considering last year we had a $30 million loss of rateable base.
Thank you, Mr. Samian.
This is a slide that talks about the net value taxable. Your net value taxable is what your tax base is. This is what we apply the $100 per assessed value on it. And I thought it would be a good idea to see the fluctuations year after year and the challenges that we have been up against to have the budgets that we have presented to you tonight. This is a slide that shows the tax impact on various levels of property assessment, ranging from $100,000 up to $1.5 million. It gives you the estimated total tax rate that's considering county and the schools added to that, and then also your local. And it's also a comparison from last year to this year. And you see all the way to the right that the local tax change, it's just slight pennies, and that's due to rounding. I mean, we got the tax rate actually lower than last year if you really want to take the decimal places out to the 5 places. But residents should not see a tax increase at all from the township. This is some history and comparisons. And what I did in showing the history and comparisons, I actually took out grants. Grants fluctuate from year to year. Sometimes we get them, sometimes we don't. And they're often offset by revenues. So it's a net neutral. It's really no impact to your budget. So I thought this would be a nice slide to show you how the budget has gone up or down over the last several years without the grants in there. It's a true picture of what your operational costs actually show you. And we do see a slight increase in the budget without the grants, and that is due to the inflation. However, with those assessed values coming up, we were able to have it continue to hold it flat. So we're very grateful to have the assessed values come up. This is a history and comparison on the local tax revenues. This is the actual amount to be raised that's thrown out to the residents that we apply taxes on, and it's pretty stable. That graph kind of looks a little bit drastic, but we're only looking between 17.8 million and 18.4. So it's really not as drastic as it appears to look. Operating surplus used in the budget is very significant when you're going to put a budget together. Without this revenue that we use in the budget being generated year after year, we wouldn't have that to bring into the budget. So the township has done a good job in holding on to surplus and generating fund balance in order to balance their budget and still keep that positive cash flow. It's very, very important to have a good balance of surplus. This budget does show a slight increase in the surplus, but we did generate enough to have it replaced. So you're in good shape. And the normal rule of thumb is to use at least have 5% available in your budget. In your fund balance of your budget. So, and we are there. This goes to show good fiscal health when we go before the bond rating agencies. They like to see a nice, healthy surplus to issue us that rating that rating that we have, which is AA-, which is a good rate.
Did we just get that changed?
That's the last rating agency we had in 2019 when we sold bonds. Yeah. This is the debt history. Many, many years ago, the Township Committee adopted a strategic plan in order to try to reduce debt. I took off several of the years before this, but it's really started out at about $23 million in debt. And you're down to $11 million now. And each and every year we chip away at it to try to get that debt down. Okay. How much will the average taxpayer pay? Is $1,472 on the average assessed home of $164,700. So they should see a tax bill from the township at $1,472. What is that $1,472? How is it divided up? Most of it is in general government, but we've also carved out some public safety and public works and solid waste. I do want to point out the solid waste, $118 a year for having solid waste removal is quite the bargain. We did have some discussions many, many years ago at the cost of what it would cost for residents to buy their own trash, and it was probably about 3 times that amount. So that is a significant savings for the taxpayers. What does public safety include? It includes police protection, fire protection, rescue squad, Office of Emergency Management, our central court, which I'll get to in just a moment. That's new for this year. Animal control, and length of service awards program for our volunteer firefighters. The Central Municipal Court of Atlantic County, this is a new shared service. It's a new event unit that started this year where Atlantic County is hosting all of the courts in Atlantic County, all the participating courts in Atlantic County, 3 largest ones being Hamilton Township, Galloway, and Egg Harbor Township, and some of the smaller ones. This was a history and comparison from year to year of the total revenues that we received within the court, and then the total cost of expenditures to run that court. We did omit 2020 because of COVID-19. The data was not comparable to the previous years or even into 2021. So we omitted that year. But you can see the net cost in 2022 has significantly come down with the cost of the shared service program with Central Municipal Court. What else have we done as far as public safety? We have introduced the new MISPA Public Safety Annex. With the MISPA community, this facility will enhance the western portion of Hamilton Township, and it will include services of fire, police, public works, accessibility. This is a picture of the conceptual improvements that the township has already either started or plans to complete by the end of this year. Those renovations include, and some of these have already been completed. They include construction of a public works and a police department and a fire substation. We've installed security, communications, and technology systems. That we've painted the building. It might be in painting right as we speak. I believe that the painters were to show up to do the outside of the building this week. Provided lighting and also landscaping, and the memorials that were there. We're going to move them to the left of the building, as you see in this previous slide. Our public works include street maintenance, street lighting, stormwater maintenance, flood mitigation, parks maintenance, recreation facility maintenance, and snow removal. Our solid waste services include garbage collection, landfill fees, recycling, and yard waste collection. Speaking of yard waste collection, this next slide, the ACUA had provided us a $40,000 credit due to the 4-month service interruption in 2021. So taxpayers this year will see that relief directly into this budget. Other general governmental services includes the state mandated and other services running the administration, includes our audit, our clerk's department, our finance department, having insurance, our legal engineering, planning and zoning, assessor, collection, vital statistics, keeping our website operating, and all of those other mandatory services that a local government entity must provide. Included in this budget is phase 1 of tax map revisions. This initiative was done to consolidate many of the small lots that the township owned in order to make them more marketable and to see that vision to provide some open space, recreation, future development, and attract any sales that may be coming down the road. So this is part of a several phase project, but this is the first phase of which is included in this budget. Finance Committee continues to invest in our public safety and parks and community events and roads and all of the programs that you enjoy being here in this township. What else is in the 2022 budget? We are continuing recovering from COVID-related imbalances without borrowing. This is important to point out because there were several municipalities that ran deficits and some deficits that were pretty severe as a result of COVID. And instead of making some tough choices that they had to do, they went out and borrowed so that they would have some cash coming in to pay for those COVID-related imbalances. And the township continues to work with their budgets, with their department heads, and to make sure that we can stay as stable and fiscally sound as possible. We are continuing to maintain and enhance any existing services that we have. We continue to invest in community development. In this budget, there is a down payment for a $4 million capital plan, which is double the amount that we've seen in the past. It also includes funding for public events such as the Cove, 9/11, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, holiday lighting, National Night Out, and the overtime and the supplies that goes with those events. Also includes overtime for public works and police services for the Halloween parade, which is sponsored by an outside event organization, sorry. And then we also continue investing in our employees. There is no reduction in force. There's no layoffs planned in this budget. There's no school tax deferrals, and there's no reduction in services. By putting the budget together, we are looking into the future. Our future planning is to phase 2 of the tax map revisions. We have some recycling initiatives that we're looking at. We're also evaluating any additional shared service offerings that are coming down our way. We're looking into a dog park and also any other efficiency initiatives that we can do to make the township stronger and more fiscally healthy. The 5-year projection, again, this is a projection. If we really had the crystal ball, we all probably would not be sitting here right now. But this is a 5-year projection based on what the information that we know tonight. And it is a slight increase as the budget year after year. So we plan tonight, if we may, to introduce the budget. The public hearing would be scheduled for April 18th. Providing we have no amendments, then we can also adopt on that night.
Cynthia, could you back up one slide?
Sure.
Could you just explain your comments on that real quick? Why do you show an annual increase year over year?
So employee costs obviously go up with our contractual obligations. So we include the increases for employee costs based on our contracts that we have already in place. The Social Security obviously goes up as long as we're paying folks. Our health insurance and pensions are based on a actuary that is done by the state of New Jersey, and in history we see that 5% increase. Debt service is stable until 2027, and then we have some dropping off. So we'll increase that when we go out for permanent financing for those issuances. And then the reserve for uncollected taxes, we have as stable grants, and then some other departments, a 2% increase just as a standard. You're welcome. Any questions?
Committee?
I have a question about the Halloween parade. Are you totally funding it, or is it Rotary?
No, the Rotary is who sponsors it, but the township has to supply public works to clean up the trash, put the trash cans out, and police services. For a crowd, yes, it covers overtime and their participation in making sure the setting up and the dismantling happens.
So you're not actually putting dollars?
No.
Into the program?
No. It's for the staff to set it up and to dismantle. Yes.
And could you put the pie chart back up again?
Sure.
That was my favorite chart, was the pie chart.
That's everybody's favorite chart, right?
Well, I think it's important to note, and that the fact that when you get your tax bill, exactly, go back.
This one or the school, the county
school.
one?
There you go. And I believe that number right there has been right around that 27.8 for a very long time. So roughly 27% of your tax bill that you see is coming to the township. The rest is going elsewhere. Mm-hmm. It's going to the county and it's going to the school district. With all we're introducing a flat budget. I understand that the county is introducing a flat budget. We're yet to hear what the school's going to do. We have some inklings that there may be a slight increase, but, we're doing our part in order to stabilize taxes and take the burden off residents. I think it's pretty impressive when you break down the 1472 average that for the average homeowner, it's $122 a month. And for that, you're receiving fire, public safety, ambulance, recreation, trash pickup. All those things are included in that $122 a month. So
I'm assuming this includes the money from the MUA.
It does.
Okay. Does everybody up here agree that we should ask for that money? Because I don't think we had a resolution or anything stating that.
Well, I do appreciate that. We did send a letter as a request.
Mm-hmm.
And based on the comments that were made at the microphone that it's obligatory on their part, the assumption would be made that is coming in. So
now, do we think that that's the right thing to do, knowing that all the work that they have coming up, that they may have to borrow money because we're taking money from them? Again, that's something I appreciate it because I think we've had many conversations on it. And I believe that the director said that we may not know what the reimbursement formula is yet, but the onerous demands that were put on them by the state will be reimbursed at some point. It may be a short-term funding that maybe need to be put in place in order to cover it until that reimbursement schedule's vetted out. So if it's not reimbursed, I guess they're just going to raise rates on the ratepayers.
I can't speak for the MUA, Carl. I mean, I would love to, but you know how I feel. I don't think this is fair. It's just not fair. But I'm one person up here.
It's been established by the state for a long time.
Just because you can ask for it doesn't mean you should.
I don't know.
Yeah, but
if it's money that's required to be funded to us, unless
it's not required. So the poor ratepayers, their rates might go up because we keep taking money from them year after year after year. So the ratepayers who pay the same tax rate, that you see up there, also have to pay a higher rate possibly if this happens. That's, like I said, I'm one person. That's how I feel. It is what it is.
And Carl, I certainly respect that. I'm not at liberty to mention but I will tell you that I will be sitting with the chairwoman of the MUA tomorrow, and I believe that we can come to an agreement that will save them in excess of what that annual amount is, and I think it would be extremely well received by them. So we're going to do our part to try to help them in the same way they're helping us. So I believe that there's something we can work out.
Okay. Are you going to let us know what those specifics are?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to let us know what those specifics
are? Of course, because it would be a decision made by this board on what we do. So,
okay.
Yes. Additional questions or comments?
good job, Cindy. Thank you. It's a great presentation.
And I think it's important to note that we are carrying over a healthy surplus. As you said, that helps with our bond rating, and that saves the taxpayers money moving forward, because the better our bond rating is, the less our cost of borrowing is, the less that we're burdening the taxpayers. So, I got to tell you, it was a lot of hard work. Cynthia, we really appreciate your effort in this and putting, it's a really, really good budget. coming off of what we've experienced in this country and certainly our community over the last couple of years. So, very good presentation. Thank you.
I would agree. It's a terrific
Great
presentation.
But I do want to say one more thing. Besides the members that were on the budget committee who went through and did this and worked very hard on it, I'm sure. We got this. The other members of committee got this on Thursday night. I've gone through it. I have some questions and I'm going to reach out to different department heads. So I just want everybody to understand we're introducing this tonight.
Correct.
It's not being passed tonight. It's being introduced tonight. Probably at the next meeting when we bring this up, I'm probably going to have more questions because I'm going to talk to maybe some different department heads. I'm going to talk to Joe. We spoke briefly about it a little bit today, but we didn't have a whole lot of time. But I just want everybody to understand there will be more questions asked, I'm sure.
Well, exactly. Tonight is designed to do just what it did. Tonight's designed.
We
You guys
introduced
got that copy advanced to see, but that's a lot to disseminate. What Carl's saying is what he saw.
A lot of
That's a
detail.
lot of information coming at us. It really is. But that's why Cynthia put the presentation together so that we could try to dumb it down a little bit in order to make
Push
it
the weeds a little bit. Yeah.
exactly. So, and as Carl said, that is what should happen at this point. It's being introduced. This is what we're offering. And at this point, any questions you have regarding the documents from the committee members and of course the public, any concerns, any questions, bring them forth so that we can address them, when it comes time for adoption. So
That's what the 28-day period's for.
we certainly welcome the questions, comments, and ideas. So.
I might add that the reason we are on Township Committee is it is our duty to go through the details and question what we have to question. But the plan that was introduced tonight was a very good plan. And as Carl indicated, as we will go through this packet, as members of the committee, we will come up with other ideas, perhaps. So, thank you.
Thank you. Committee, anything else? And if not, we'll move on. All right, we'll move on. Let's move on to B. I'm sorry, we did that.
Yeah, Bill.
Yes. The presentation, we're going to move on to B. That's what B is, Mr. Rogers. We just did the presentation. We're going to move on to B now. All right, we'll move on to B. Resolution to introduce the 2022 budget and set the public hearing for April 18th, 2022.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Link, a second by Mr. Cheek. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Was that a 5-0?
Yes. You want a roll call, Mr. Salmon?
I do.
Rita, could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes and introduced.
All right. Now we'll move on to 4 discussions. Formal action may be taken. The first one is A, Park Road. Joe, you want to give us just a little bit of
On Park Road, yes, Mayor. Last week, the Central Committee held a public meeting to
You
Microphone.
have to talk into the mic.
I'm sorry. Yes, Mayor. At the request of the Township Committee, a public letter was sent out to the residents of the town to gauge their opinions and feedback based on what they would like to see on Park Road. And we've had our police chief came out, as well as our DPW director, provided a SWOT analysis and engaged everybody's opinions of what they would like to see, from speed tables to signs to, I believe, Ms. Link, was there anything else?
Road art.
Road art, yes. Yes,
Putting in the sidewalks.
yes.
So
And
that
sidewalk.
meeting was hosted by Ms. Hopkins and Mrs. Link. We could only have 2 Township Committee people there because, trust me, Mr. Patali, myself, and Mr. Cheek would have wanted to be there if we could have, but there's laws that say we can't be there. So, Ms. Hopkins, Mrs. Link, is there anything that you want to add regarding that? I know we're going to look at the information received and try to come up with an action plan. Is there anything you'd like to add at this time?
Yes, I would. For public safety, the sidewalks would definitely be an asset, but we have to also take a deep dive into all the ramifications that will be required. So it is not something that we could automatically say, yes, it's going to be a done deal, but we can certainly promise to the public that we will look into its details and see what can be done. The majority of the people did not want to see a one-way street. They encouraged the sign that indicates your speed, because there were two situations. One was the speed at which people go down Park Road. And I must say, Aileen Dix predicted this when we did the paving. She predicted that that would be the case. But we have to, get people to slow down, and I think the police department has been monitoring that as well. The idea of a $10,000 traffic sign that would tell how fast you were going was introduced. It was a thought that, it's going to be expensive to do that, and all these considerations. In addition to the Park Road, we did do a ride through all the roads that are needed to be done in Hamilton Township. So that list was very long, very lengthy, and it's 30 years in the making. So we have a lot to consider moving forward. But so.
Thank you, Mrs. Link. Ms. Hopkins, is there?
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to all the Park Road residents in Lee Link and all of the neighbors on Morningside and stuff. It was a good turnout. It was a lively discussion, set some great ideas, and we have a plan to move forward. We're going to be exploring the sidewalks, and Pinelands has just changed some of the regulations with respect to storm drain management as of December 2021. So perhaps we'll be able to move it forward a little more efficiently, but I was very pleased with the outcome and the turnout. It was very nice.
I think it's a great thing that both the committee women did, going out, reaching out to the residents and asking for their input. And maybe there's ideas that can be shared, Ms. Link, with the other roads that we wanted to look at too. So, it was a great exercise to undertake, get the information, get feedback from those that are going to be impacted by it, disseminate that information, and come to a plan of action. So I appreciate both you doing that, and hopefully we'll see some more positive news from it in the near future. So any other questions or comments on that? Hearing none, I'll move on, if you don't mind, to B, the cannabis RFP. Joe, if you would just start us off on this, and I see Ms. Gibbons sitting behind you there.
Sure, absolutely, Mayor. This is a request for proposal to establish a process moving forward to evaluate cannabis applicants and provide a local endorsement of that process.
Okay. Emily, you have anything you want to add? Or committee, how about questions, comments on this, committee? Is there anything? We have Ms. Gibbons here. She's our redevelopment attorney. We have Aaron here. If there's any questions on this that you need answered.
I know I probably should be aware, but how many retail stores are going to be allowed in Hamilton Township for this
Aaron,
project?
Aaron, you're going to have to come up and use a microphone or something.
Yeah, you're welcome to sit here.
When you sit out there, you're off the clock.
Oh, you better get back in there.
So the retail locations are only permitted in the design commercial, highway commercial, and industrial park. In each zoning district, 4 retail facilities are permitted.
So we should have a map of that to show what that is,
Okay.
okay?
Mhm.
I mean, not everybody in this township knows exactly what that is.
Okay. It's design commercial, highway commercial, and industrial park. Thank you. You're welcome.
And that's for retail sales.
That's for retail sales. Yes.
Now, that's not just for medical.
No, this is strictly for recreational over
So you
21.
didn't answer how many.
12.
We could have 12.
Yeah, 4 in each zoning district.
Wow. I think that this would if it was before the planning board, I think it should be made public. People should know that this is something.
Well, let's be clear, Aaron. There's different classifications.
Yes,
and there's only so many licenses being handed out by the state.
Yes, and also the increase to 4 per zoning district was to accommodate for micro businesses. So up to 2 of these licenses in each district could be small, resident-owned, 2,500 square feet facilities.
2,500. That's
Yeah,
pretty big.
that's the largest a micro business can.
That's to grow.
No, that's for
That's the retail.
retail. Yeah.
And the likelihood of that happening is not high. And the reason why I say that is because there's only so many licenses being given out.
Right.
And
Not
then
everybody that applies is going to be
is
approved
going
by
to
the
get
state.
one. And we maintain control, Ms. Link, as a township by the requirement of anyone that wishes to do business in our township for cannabis would have to enter into a redevelopment agreement in order to control that process. That would control distances, the amount of licenses, the location of those licenses, and the type of operation.
Can we have a presentation by the planning board instead of it just happening in the planning board as to how and when this would take place so
Yes.
that the public can give their opinion?
This is, well, right now we're talking about the ordinance. I don't know if you want to wait. The RFP for a discussion is something completely different. It's for local endorsement. Each applicant is required to submit local endorsement to the state for their state application. The state is taking it very seriously. And what they don't want to see is the municipality just endorsing every application that comes through the door. So this is why we created the RFP for local endorsement, which has a very clear scoring rubric, which is really not up for interpretation. So it is a fair and open process for our endorsement.
Yeah, well, I think that should be made very public to our people as to whether they would, we as committee people can say yes, but I'd like some input from our,
Sure, we
township.
can do that. Yeah, and
Because, we've been known for having all these liquor stores. Now we're going to have all pot stores. I don't know. Before it was all these places that had girly shows.
well, we can, if the board chooses to move to advertise this, it will be advertised to the public, and we can add to it a presentation from any applicants.
Yeah, I'd like to see a presentation by the chairman of the planning board to explain to our public at a public meeting,
Okay.
not just in a newspaper.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ready?
Number 2 here, commitment to hiring 51% women and minority staff that are residents of the Township of Hamilton. What happens if they don't meet the 51%?
They get 0 points and score lower, and somebody that does meet the 51% will score higher and receive our endorsement.
Anybody can come in and say, I'll get 51%.
Sure, they're gonna have to show proof. And then, we can manage that through the annual licensing. They have to come back to us annually. And
Okay.
as a
Okay.
condition, yeah,
There you go.
as a condition of their renewal, we can make sure that they prove to us that they're upholding their commitment.
Carl, if I may, I don't want anybody to be in fear that this is not the Wild Wild West. We're not opening it up, and as Mrs. Link said, the girly shows. This is not the Wild Wild West.
This is
something that was extremely well thought out. And Mr. Patel, you have a great question there, because you're right. Somebody may be able to try to get around it in the beginning, but the process, they will be vetted, and then we have the annual review on it in order for that license to be maintained. And that annual review covers a whole lot of things, not just that type of stuff. I mean, how it's working in the community, how things are going, if there's been any legal issues, those types of things, they all get covered in that annual review.
Yes.
Well,
Additional questions, comments?
yeah, enforcement sounds pretty interesting. Does this involve the odor that the manufacturers or the growers will produce, and monitoring them?
Right now, we're only talking about the RFP for endorsement. This is what you're asking about, is the amendment to the ordinance that's coming up under number 5.
Let me just back up a little bit, and Joe, feel free to touch, and yourself. What you see in front of you here is we're getting inundated on almost a daily basis with individuals asking and wanting to. What there's a rush right now to the state. There's only so many licenses being handed out. Everybody wants to be the first person to get that license. They may not be qualified. They may not ever be able to complete their request. But what they want to do is they want to come to us first and say, hey, will you back me? Will you sign a piece of paper saying that you support me? We created a process in order to vet those individuals. To this point, Hamilton Township has not, we told every individual that has contacted us that we are creating a process. Once we pass that process, you're on a waiting list now. You can then take that process and see if you comply with it. If you do, if you meet the requirements, then that will get submitted to this committee in order to make a decision on an individual applicant.
Absolutely.
So I think what's going to happen, and again, it's my opinion and what's happening in other communities, once this process goes into place and they're able to pull this off online, you're probably going to see 95% of those applications go right out the door because they're not going to qualify. And just to touch on one more thing that Mr. Patali said, when it comes to minority-owned businesses, the micro licenses, there is an absolute requirement that they must
be municipal residents.
Mrs. Link, it is a maximum of 2,500 square feet. So if the shop size that they want to make is less than 25 feet, that would be acceptable. Mm-hmm. But in order to qualify for a micro, the most you can have is 2,500 square feet. So,
correct.
Yeah, I mean, like a shopping mall.
Well, if you look at the ordinance that was written, you cannot be in a shopping mall. You can't be in a strip center. You must be standalone and standalone only.
Yeah, but that square feet would be like a shopping mall.
Well, no, 2,500? No,
Yeah.
2,500.
Oh, 2,500. I'm thinking 25,000.
Above
Okay.
average residential home.
All right.
But there are, the reason why we created the RFP again is to vet these applicants and not put that demand on our staff. Because if we didn't create this RFP, the staff would have to be doing this. They would have to be figuring out the process on their own. So now we have a clear-cut process for the staff to follow and say, hey, this is what you need. Get this stuff to us, and then we'll go from there. And I think it's a great start. So,
do you think there's any room for veterans to be considered in this?
Veterans are a priority with the state.
Okay.
Yes.
It isn't listed here, though.
I can add that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. Aaron, I'm under the assumption that for an individual to apply for the license, they have to prove that they have our backing. Is that correct? That's part of That's part of the applicant process?
It is part of the application process. They can apply before they receive our endorsement, but they will not be approved until they submit that endorsement.
Exactly. That's why they have to get our endorsement before
Yes.
they even know they're getting a license.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
But they must comply with everything in this RFP prior to us even considering them for that
Yes.
endorsement.
Yes. Yes. And there's, I assigned point values. So it's very fair. It's very open. It's not open to interpretation. It is what it is, basically. It's going to be a fair and open process.
Now, the building that is being constructed on 322, where the clubhouse was, that was approved by the planning board to be a medical marijuana building.
Yes.
Okay. What happened to the traffic engineer and its real difficulty to get in and out of that location? I've mentioned it many times. I want to see a traffic pattern, because now the planning board has just given the go light. And
I have to back you up on that just a little bit.
Okay.
The application for the location that you're talking about was before the planning board on several occasions, and the engineer for their applicant and our township reviewed the traffic studies and all the testimony from the applicant on how that operation would run. And you had 9 individuals up there that disseminated that information, took the advice of their professionals, changed portions of the application as we went forward with it. We got a tremendous amount of testimony on the record. That tape is available and the minutes are available regarding traffic plans, how they were going to handle it, what they could do to make sure that traffic didn't back up on the pike. And that information was, deemed appropriate to the planning board members to allow that application to move forward. This was not just a rubber stamp. I mean, there was a tremendous amount of testimony put on the record.
I went to seek that out and didn't get anything.
Aaron,
as I said before, that whole thing, I want to see the traffic pattern that they're going to.
Would you provide for Mrs. Link for me tomorrow? Would you provide her with the traffic study by their engineer and by our engineer? And would you also make sure she gets a copy of the minutes of the meeting? And of course, Mrs. Link, I don't want to have them burn you a tape. If you requested, they would be more than happy to do that, so you can listen to the hours and hours of testimony. But they weren't before the public. No. Yes, they were. Yes,
really?
Those meetings were advertised.
You had a lot of people from the public come.
I cannot make the public go to an advertised meeting. It was clearly advertised of what the application was for, what the location was. If members of the public didn't choose to attend, we still have to make a decision. If the applicant, we have a legal process we must undertake at the planning board level, and they have a right to have their hearing heard. If people don't show up, we can't force that. But this was an extremely transparent process, and we're taking an extra step that other municipalities are taking. We're taking it to protect the integrity of our community. That's what this is designed to do.
Well, as I said before, there was several restaurants there. They all went out of business because they couldn't have the correct access to that business. I went to Rotary meetings there. It was very, very dangerous to go in and get out of that area. I do not understand where or how our traffic engineers could really give a go on that. There are probably 2 or 3 areas that would qualify where it has an easy access, easy departure. I want to see where they really said that, because, as I said before, it was not before they went out of business because of the traffic problems. Those people, that clubhouse went out of business because of the in and out. And the same thing with the businesses that the Rotaries went to there. So I can't conceive in my mind, I have to see it to believe it, because, talk about safety. If we are putting something before the public and saying, hey, this is safe for you to leave 40, go in there, even if there's conversion things, the 322, I want to see it.
If I may, Mrs. Link, this is something that was looked at by our local traffic engineers, and this, you have to understand, there is a state-approved ingress and egress on that property. We are not allowed to, as a planning board or as a township committee, to discuss the merits of an individual's application from the viability of their business plan. We are allowed only to look at it from the standpoint of whether or not it fits with our master plan and whether or not we can make it work as a location that's approved. We can't go into their business plan. If their business plan is flawed and they're not going to be able to make money at that location because of the ingress and egress, then that's on them, unfortunately.
It's not a matter of business plan. May I interrupt you? That I am concerned about the safety of people going in there and getting out. Not their business plans. I am worried about our population of Hamilton going in there and trying to get out. What is the resolution do we have a access to volunteer way, or I have no idea why they okayed it, but I want to see it.
I'll provide you all of that information.
And I would appreciate if you would bring a report back at the next meeting and just tell us what you found out and what you see that they could have done better.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments? If none, I'll entertain. Do you want to? Are we looking to take action on the RFP, or are we just doing?
Yes, please. I do have one.
Packets.
Yes, I did see. I just didn't know if that was a sample for us or if we were looking to entertain that this evening.
I do have one question before you make the motion.
Sure.
If you see in here, I have bolded a question about how often you want this advertised. Would you like to, until all of the licenses are fulfilled, would you like to do this on a quarterly basis, a monthly basis?
Joe, you want to weigh on that?
Well, I mean, RFPs, you can do 21 days. You can do
So-
quarterly. We don't want to overwhelm the staff. I think everybody's going to be able to look at this once you advertise it. And the industry, they're looking to either submit or they're either looking to move on somewhere. So
Right.
they're going to be attentive no matter what. I think a quarterly is more than sufficient.
Then we'll make it
Yeah, that's a
quarterly.
good question.
Quarterly, of course.
So if they're waiting to get approved by the state and they're going to be submitting applications to us in anticipation of the state award, if they don't get the state identification, then they simply, we do away with their application, but maybe
Yes.
somebody else does and wants to come in. And that's for that reason I was thinking, when does the state door close?
The state door does not close.
Then I would
Rolling
say
up.
we advertise until our spots are filled. That
Agreed.
would be my gut feel, only because somebody's going to get rejected and somebody's going to step up to the plate.
I agree.
Quarterly.
All right, before I entertain a motion, if anyone does motion, I would like it to include the language that Mrs. Link said regarding veterans.
Yes.
In other words, the scoring system would be weighted higher if it's a veteran-owned
business.
Yeah. So same as it would be with it being obviously a township residence.
Yep.
So at this point, if there's no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Cheek,
Second.
a second by Ms. Hopkins. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, Rita, could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
Oh, yes, and carried.
Aaron, thank you for your work on this, and I do want to thank the planning board for the tremendous amount of work that they put forth, trying to do the best they can when an applicant comes to us to get the most out of the applicant to protect the public, and I do appreciate their volunteerism. So, all right, we'll move on.
Thank
We'll move on to C, update status of American Legion property. Mr. Patali, if you would.
I basically asked our administrator if he could just give us a report on where that stands. I know It was in the middle of being sold.
Yep, we placed a tarp on it.
We threw a tarp on it.
Yeah. The streetification's filed and it's been filed with the State Historical Society, so we're just waiting on the state.
So we're holed up by
The state.
the state.
I have an update.
You have another one?
Historical Society?
Where everything's been filed with the county clerk's office and we are ready to move on the sale.
Okay, so who's in charge of doing that? Reaching out to the person that was going to buy it.
That would be the township. We'll be reaching out to them.
We'll be reaching out to him saying, okay, everything's all good to go.
I spoke with him on Friday afternoon. He knows everything's good to go.
Okay,
So
you
Joe
hear this,
and I
Bruce? All right.
That's an exciting thing.
I don't want you to think I'm not doing anything. I do drive around town.
That's been an eyesore for a long time. Again, a lot of effort got put into getting that building to the position where we could get it advertised. We found a suitor to rehab it, and of course, again, I talk about it all the time how cumbersome and clunky government is, and how long it takes.
Brutal.
And I'm going to keep preaching it. Whenever we can make it smaller, more efficient, at a municipal level, it trickles up. So it's unfortunate that God bless you, it's taken so long, but it sounds like we're on the right track right
Yeah.
now.
Aaron, thank you. Joe, thank you.
Is this the same? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Good.
Is this the same person that had it under?
The redevelopment
Some
agreement.
sort of agreement with.
Yeah,
them?
it's a redevelopment agreement that was executed in, I believe, October of 2020 with parish
Bob, what was his
contractors,
Yeah.
parish construction.
Parish contract. That's it.
Okay, so it's the same one.
It is, yes.
That's coming back, even with all the snags and.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
because we've now
We were
upheld
able to keep
our
him
end
in the
of the agreement. Now it's time for him to start on his.
It's time to straighten that property out. So
Absolutely.
that would be great.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for putting it on the agenda. So we'll move on to 5, public hearing, adoption of ordinances. First, we have A, ordinance 1982-2022, an ordinance authorizing the sale of lot 17 and block 369 as shown on the tax map of the Township of Hamilton and granting to the owner or owners of said real property contiguous to the same the right to prior refusal. Can't they do this in layman's language? The guy next door wants to buy the property. That's really what it comes down to. So, that's it. Yes, the guy next door wants to buy it. So you have one in front of you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak on this matter? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion. So moved. I have a motion by Mr. Vitale,
Second.
second by Mrs. Link. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. With that, if there's any questions or comments, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cheek, second by Mr. Vitale. Rita, can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
Oh, yes, and adopted.
B is a very similar, it's the same type of situation, 1983-2022, an ordinance authorizing the sale of Lot 5 and Block 805 as shown on the tax map of the Township of Hamilton and granting to the owner or owners of said real property contiguous to the same right to prior refusal to purchase such land in the Township of Hamilton, County of Atlantic, in the state of New Jersey. Again, the neighbor wants to buy the property. So, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak on this matter? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Vitale,
Second.
second by Mrs. Link. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. All right.
To move ordinance 1983-2022.
I have a motion by Mr. Vitale,
Second.
second by Mr. Cheek. Rita, could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Just before I vote, I do want to mention part of what you saw in the budget presentation tonight. We should possibly be seeing a lot more of these in the future once we get done what we're doing. We are looking at the zoning maps of the township. Back when the zoning was introduced, there's a lot of 50 by 100 lots and 25 by 100 lots. That's the way zoning was done back then, that we're looking to consolidate. Part of the budget that was introduced tonight will put the funds there to allow us to consolidate a good portion of the township so we can look at those properties and decide whether or not the neighbor may want to purchase them, whether it fits into our recreation park plan or open space plan moving forward. So that is something that we undertook in the presentation tonight, and hopefully it'll result in getting these properties that are sitting vacant back onto the tax rolls and moving forward that way. So I vote yes.
All yes and adopted.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to 6. 6A, Ordinance 1986, 2022, an ordinance to amend Ordinance number 1346-99 is amended, entitled an ordinance implementing the Emergency Services Volunteer Length of Service Award Program, better known as LOSAP, for firefighters, set forth in Exhibit A, attached ordinance 1346-99. The public hearing on this will be held on April 4th, 2022. Joe, you want to give us just a little background on this, please?
Yeah, this allows us to increase our volunteerism. This is a great way to get more volunteer firefighters within the township to help our residents. We have 2 firefighters on the LOSAP program who are on active military, and this allows them to get credit for LOSAP while on active military. So this is a great way to increase volunteerism firefighters.
Fantastic. Is there any questions or comments from committee?
Good job.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
No, I think this was a very worthwhile motion.
Any time we can help those volunteers that are helping us, I think it's important. And this is one program that allows us to do that.
Okay.
I have a motion by Mrs. Link,
Second.
second by Mr. Cheek. Rita, could I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor King?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, introduced.
Next, I'll preference B. The public hearing on this will not be April 4th. It'll be April 18th. Ordinance 1987-2022, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 1963-2021 entitled Ordinance of the Township of Hamilton adopting an amendment to the redevelopment plan for the entirety of the Township, Hamilton, County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey to permit cannabis establishment, distributors, and delivery services.
Mayor King,
Yes.
do you want to
Aaron?
ask?
Okay.
I'm going to defer to
Sure. Yep. Ms. Hopkins, if you want to, you have a question prior to?
I was going to ask a question.
Please.
Okay, so with this cultivation being reduced now to 250 feet from 1,000, I kind of echo off of Judy's concern in that the odor permeation. And I know from Trace Explosives, we have technology that's out there. If you guys have been to an airport, you've been, where they have you go like this and they take that wand to go around. What they're doing is they're collecting molecules of particles. In that particular instance, it's explosives. But that same technology is now in what they call a field spectrometer type device, allometer, that will allow them to pick up traces of particles that are in marijuana. And there's about 129 particles. There's 2 that really light up for detection. And the idea is that you can acquire one of these tools if you are a municipality like us, and you would stand at the edge of the property and you would point this device and it would gather the air. And if there was an odor detected or a molecule in the air that was bleeding in from this building, this device would go off and it would have a range of like 1 to 20. And the parametric range for most townships is somewhere around 7. So if it goes over 7, you're probably starting to smell it. And the idea is I would like to, if we're going to go with this reduced footage, then we need to step up our game in terms of being able to pick up any odor emitting from that building continually. We want the growers to be self-monitoring and reporting to us. And I think we want our zoning and our police officials to be able to have these devices. And if it emanates before we smell it, we need to be able to detect it and have them adjust their filters or do something within a 72 to 65 hour period of time and resolve it, or we need to make them shut down. So if we're pulling it to 250, I'm looking at a real firm enforcement.
So what we are proposing is based on comments that we received from the Pinelands Commission for any of the ordinances that the township adopts that impact any property that is governed by the Pinelands, we need their certification before an ordinance becomes effective. And so right now they have provided us with comments on the original ordinance and have requested changes. So we were making those changes. And in addition, some other changes were being made, as Aaron mentioned, to increase some of the number of licenses based off of particular areas in the township that are more appropriate for certain classes of licenses, like the industrial business park. In addition, we are going to introduce, and if committee is okay with it, the idea was to, right now, the way that the ordinance that was previously adopted by the township reads is that a facility, a person of reasonable sensitivity is the standard for that odor detection. And as you pointed out, that's not sufficient. That will not give the township any objective standard to apply. So the language that we're proposing to add, which would be an additional amendment to the draft that committee has seen, would be that use of a field olfactometer as prescribed by industry best practices would be the standard to apply for measuring the odor at that property line. And in addition, those odors would be monitored on a quarterly and or on an event basis. So if someone calls and complains and says that I can smell something and it smells skunky, and so I'm thinking that it's coming from that facility, we'll have the ability to go out and take a measurement based on that event and that reporting. And so we can monitor that, and then we'll be able to enforce that. And as the mayor mentioned earlier, any entity that wants to operate a cannabis business, regardless of class, within the township is going to have to enter into a redevelopment agreement. And in that redevelopment agreement, depending upon the type of license that they're going to be acquiring and the size of the facility, whether it's a micro business or whether it's a larger facility, the redevelopment agreement is going to be able to impose other parameters, other restrictions, and other requirements on that particular operator. So we'll have a few layers of protection for the township, one through the actual ordinance itself, and then another layer of protection through the redevelopment agreement. But that would be the additional change to the ordinance, the draft amendment that the committee has seen. And so then we would get that to Rita with those changes after committee signs off on it. And then we don't necessarily have to introduce this evening. We can introduce on April 4th with a referral over to the planning board, because the planning board will also have to do a master plan consistency review of this amended ordinance with a public hearing then on the 18th of April.
And you believe we'll be able to make that timeline? You feel comfortable with that? Okay.
Why the drastic change from 1,000 to 250?
It was explained to me in the review of the potential areas. This is particular for the industrial business park because of the fact that it is industrial in nature, and there has been a lot of interest in that area and land available for these particular. But there is also, I apologize, I should know the name of the school, but there's a school in there. And so the reduction in distance is really to accommodate the ability of operators to locate in the business park, in the industrial park, where they should be locating. And I understand too, and Erin, you can correct me, there really aren't any other schools that would fit within that 250 radius in the other districts.
We got ACIT and HES.
Yeah, and what is the other?
We
I consider that special ACIT special service.
And that is in the industrial
ACIT
business park, that's correct? Yeah.
If I may just add quickly, I just want to be very clear with this with the public. This was put to a vote. The public voted on this. Recreational marijuana passed in Hamilton Township in excess of 71%. That's what the public spoke, and they said we wanted in Hamilton Township. What you're seeing from the Township Committee and the Planning Board is the attempt and a very good attempt at regulating this more than we regulate a lot of other things. Quite you hear myself also all the time speak and say how much we want to be business friendly, how we're trying to relax standards, how we're trying to make it more inviting to come to Hamilton Township. I think we're taking almost the opposite with this, and we're trying to protect. It was voted on. The public wants it, but we're trying to protect the neighboring residents and the integrity of our town by putting in all these different types of things. The RFP and the language in the ordinances, now the air scrubbing that Ms. Hopkins talked about, those types of things. So we're trying to make the best of it by putting in these, help me out a little bit.
The standards and the
standards,
restrictions,
thank you.
yeah.
But that doesn't mean, and you have to understand, that doesn't mean that you're going to see a building 250 foot from any one of those properties. What it means is if you take a pin and you stick it in the center of a piece of property and you draw a 1,000-foot line, that could be a completely wooded property that you can't have it within that 1,000-foot line. That would eliminate the majority of the property in our industrial park. What's going to happen by eliminating this, that allows those parcels to be sold at this point, or at least be put under agreement while they apply for licenses. But then what happens, folks, is it goes into a redevelopment agreement if it's approved, and then that application goes before the planning board. This committee and other committees before it voted on 9 people to sit on that planning board, volunteers in your neighborhoods. I assure you that those individuals will look at every application and make sure, understanding what's going there, that they will protect the residents of this town to the best of their ability and to the ability of the law. So don't think this, I don't want any interpretation leaving here this evening or when it's viewed online that this is the wild, wild west. Hamilton Township has embraced what the people want, and we're putting in all the stopgaps and all the provisions we can in order to protect the public while embracing what the public wants. So.
Yeah, and to your point about coming back to the planning board for any development application, this does not change any of the bulk standards for any development within any of the zones within the township. It strictly addresses the uses and the distance, and the odor mitigation measures will be addressed as well.
Thank you.
Is there? Oh, go ahead, Rich.
I'm under the understanding that, number one, a marijuana grower, seller, whatever, has to be under the redevelopment agreement.
That's correct.
Now, if a project comes in that just say we're all concerned about that it may affect a school or a courthouse or whatever, if we don't enter into a redevelopment agreement, it's null and void. Am I correct?
They would not be able to proceed.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
yes, they would not be able to go to the planning board as a condition of their the way the ordinance is written, as one of the checklist items to deem their application complete would be an executed redevelopment agreement with the committee.
So if we were concerned as a committee that we really don't want that facility there, we just don't offer a redevelopment agreement. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's one of the ability or the benefits of moving forward under the redevelopment,
yes,
as opposed to simply amending your zoning ordinances.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we still have control.
And understand that each one of these applications, I want to go back to Mrs. Link's point earlier, each one of these applications, if they get through the first process and make it to the second process and a redevelopment agreement, that redevelopment agreement then goes before the planning board, which is a public hearing. It will be advertised as such, and the public will have a chance to comment on each individual or any application that comes before that board regarding cannabis, and of course any other thing that happens in the township. But so, that's the time when that gets advertised, that's the time to voice your concerns about that particular application in that particular location. So.
I'm concerned with the 250 feet. I'd like to see, I'd like to know exactly what properties that 250 feet is going to affect. Is there any way that we can you do that for me and see how many properties this is going to affect? Because we all know it's all fine and good that there's all these rules that they have to follow about the odor and everything. But if their system breaks down, the odor gets out, there's a good chance it could be days, it could be weeks before it gets fixed. And it's not like we're going to go in there and we're going to say, you guys have to shut everything down. You got to get everything out of that building. If it's one of the big warehouses, the big 10,000 square feet, you're going to ask them to remove 10,000 square feet of cannabis plants 250 feet from school. I mean, parents are not going to be happy at all.
Well, Carl, I appreciate your concerns and I agree with them. And Erin said she'd provide that to you and the other members committee.
Yes, I would like to see it.
I just want to be clear. I don't see any situation where the planning board approves a building. I don't even see a chance where the ingress and egress would be even on the same street, that they would approve a building within eyesight or proximity of that school. It's the actual overall property.
But they could.
They could. You're absolutely right. But that would mean that no public showed up and there's something nefarious going on. And I can't imagine that the volunteers that we voted on would try to push something through. At the end of the day, there's a lot of protections built in it, but you have a very valid question. And I think that once you provide it to him, I think that question will make him feel a lot better when he sees the properties that are in question with it. So.
I'll ask you and Rich a question because you guys have been on planning board for a long time.
Yes.
How often do you get residents come to a planning board meeting?
Well, it depends.
Just to talk about one certain.
It normally depends. That's a great question, and it normally depends on the application. I mean, I can tell you, I can go back to applications where we've had a full room out here because of things impacting their neighborhood. I can think of Lauderdale off the top of my head, where this room was packed over an application and the public voiced their opinion and that application did not go through. How often does it happen? It depends on the type of application. These are the type of applications that I think would bring out those individuals to talk about.
I'll remind you that we had one application that had to be handled in the school authority.
So you're absolutely correct. Yes.
And that was the racetrack and right power plant.
But so let's be clear. I mean, this would be any application once they enter into a redevelopment agreement would be advertised. There would be a public hearing, and that's the time for individuals to voice their concerns. And I can tell you, sitting on that board for a very long time, that the public has changed our minds on many different occasions and or had us alter a plan based on the comments that we received from that microphone during the application process. So, we have a great chairman, we have a great board, and I believe there's a lot of built-in protection there. But
well, I'll tell you right now, some people changed my mind on this because when we first went through this and we were talking about that 1,000 feet and during discussion, it was brought up, well, 1,000 feet seems pretty long. And I was one of the ones that said, well, let's change it now before we do this. And over the last, what was that, 6 months ago that we did that? So here I am coming back to you saying, well, I'm kind of changing my mind a little bit after, some thought goes through. And today in Joe's office, when I was talking to Joe a little bit, when I first got there, Judy was still there. So it was only two of us, just so everybody knows.
Two of us are allowed.
Two of us are allowed. Judy had brought up the idea of the odor, and Sue brought it up again, and that kind of worries me that, like I said, if something went wrong with their filtration systems, and it cost $75,000 to fix it, I'm telling you right now, they're going to drag their feet, and we're going to smell whatever it is you smell. And if the wind's blowing the right way, it's going over to Hess. And in the morning, when there's 752 cars lined up dropping off their kids, they're all going to complain. So it's just something to keep in mind here.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And again, I think that once you see the properties in question, you see what the proper buffering that could be done. And again, it's a 250 is because the property line is within 250 feet.
Not the building.
Yeah, I don't believe in any, I know I would not let it happen as a member of that board. So this is something that's on our radar, and we will take every application with the utmost seriousness because we know with what we're dealing with. So
now you said it was 250 feet from that property line. Now you said you take a pin and do the radius. Is that all the way around their property line?
You may have a 100-acre lot, Mrs. Link, that because it's within 200 or 1,000 feet of the school, that entire lot would not be allowed to be used for this purpose. So by reducing the setbacks, that property it could be 100 acres, meaning that just because one portion of that property abuts with the other property within that distance, it wouldn't be usable. So if we reduce the setback to 250, it would make certain properties usable for that purpose. But again, there's ample room on those properties to make sure that the facilities are a much further distance away, probably in most cases, as far as what the requirement that 1,000-foot would be. But
Okay, but it sounds like we're accommodating certain people who want to invest and they can't meet those qualifications, and so of 1,000 feet. So we're backing off and making it 250. That's what I read.
Well, there are individuals that have expressed interest to do business in our industrial park. It's up to us as a committee to decide whether or not we want that. Understand, I mean, there are land sales that the possibility for land sales is there. The possibility, these are legitimate businesses. This is not high old times. This is not Cheech and Chong. We're talking about, in order to get through to this
That's
process.
what I'm imagining.
What do you,
Cheech and Chong.
I mean, the investment that these individuals would have to make for these facilities is in the millions and millions of dollars just to get through the door, to get to the application process, to get started in the industrial park. I mean, you're talking about 7 figures probably before you even get the shovel in the ground. So, I mean, we're talking about something. We're not talking about small operations here. We're talking about stuff that, and again, Carl, your point is well taken, but there are state guidelines too. So I would like to know, if we could get Mr. Patali's question answered, what penalties would the state impose upon an operator if the scenario that he just said, what if we lose electric? What, I mean, would they, I'm confident they would have to be required to have a backup generator.
Yeah.
If they don't, I mean, the chances of both going down. And then again, if one unit breaks, if you drive by the facility that is in Pleasantville right now, it looks like the roof of that building looks like something NASA put together. It is unbelievable. The amount of rooftop units on that building, I've never seen anything like it. And that's all to just scrub air. And I can't imagine that all would go down at one time, but your concerns are well taken. And I'd like to see if we could just get the answers on that for him.
Yeah,
What's the backup? What's the contingency?
There you go.
Power
What's the
failure, you
contingency
have a
plan?
generator. You should have a backup HVAC. Carl, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
That's a good strategy.
Yeah. What backup would you have?
Good. Any other questions or comments?
Comments. When I was looking at the 1,000 feet to the 250 feet, I had the same concerns that Carl and Judy did. But the reality is, it doesn't matter whether it's 10 feet or 2,000 feet, it's the odor. And that's why we went with the technological solution.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? This is the first discussion that we're having as a group up here about this. And the public hearing on this will be held on April 18th. So I hope that Mr. Patali's questions get answered in a timely manner so that we can have a good quality discussion on the 18th and possible adoption. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Are we going to have it on the 4th?
The 18th, yes. We're going to move this forward, correct?
Have it on the 4th?
On the 4th? Okay. We have to take action here.
Well, if you want to introduce tonight
Correct.
With the amendments that we've
with the
noted.
amendments without really seeing them, then the public hearing would be on the 18th. If you want to push this off and introduce at the next meeting, then the public hearing will no longer be on the 18th. I don't think that would give the planning board enough time.
So as long as we, on the 4th of April, we adopt a resolution referring it to the planning board, and the planning board meets on the 7th of April,
Okay.
we would have
You
sufficient
would
time
have
for the
enough
18th.
time? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you just want to,
We can introduce tonight with the amendments as noted, and then I will get you the document tomorrow morning. And I will make sure that committee has it as well so that they can make any corrections that are necessary.
Can we move to table this until the 4th then?
Let's first of all, I want to encourage those in attendance tonight. I want to encourage those that will watch this on TV. You understand, I think we've had a lot of discussion about this. You understand what's about to be undertaken here. Voice your comments, concerns, get those questions to us. And if you have concerns, plan on being here on the 18th, but get your questions and comments to us prior to so that we can research them and have that information for the 18th. This has been a process that's been undergoing for a long time, and we don't want to violate any timeframes with Pinelands. And that's why we're under a little bit of a time crunch.
Yes.
I would like to see us introduce that. All that does is start the clock ticking. We do not have to adopt on the 18th if every committee member's concerns aren't met. So I would encourage an introduction this evening so that we satisfy our requirements with Pinelands. And then we take that discussion to the meeting on the 18th. And if your questions aren't answered, we don't adopt that evening. That's all. We can table
Well, why not delay it until the 4th, and when those concerns are listed, and we'll vote on it then?
That's is that a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, Mrs. Link has made a motion to table this until the 4th. Is there a second on that motion? Hearing none. Is there a motion on the ordinance to move that forward this evening? To introduce, correct. Yes.
I would move. So moved.
I have a motion by Mrs. Hopkins.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Cheek. Rita, could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek,
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
No.
Mr. Vitale,
I just want to make sure something here, because I've been doing this for a while now. We can make changes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. So if my answers are not either given to me or I'm not happy with the answers, we can change this 250 feet. We can, because I understand the time. I understand that we want to get this done quickly, but
That would be a material alteration, which would delay the adoption hearing. But yes, based on the public comment or information you get between now and then, it can be changed.
yes.
I share Mr. Vitale's sentiments. I will not vote for this if your questions aren't answered. But I will vote yes this evening to allow us to start that process to get all the questions answered. So, yes. Thank you.
4 yes, 1 no. The ordinance is introduced. Public hearing set for the 19th of April. I'm sorry, 18th of April.
All right, we'll move on to 7. Award of bids and contracts / change orders. A, resolution approving change order. Emily, thank you very much. Change order number 1, Atlantic Avenue 2020 Municipal Aid Program, bid 2020-02 in the amount of $18,175.65 as recommended by the Township engineer in his correspondence dated 3/7/22.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Vitale,
Second.
second by Mr. Cheek. Rita, could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek,
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mr. Vitale.
Yes.
Mayor Kane.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
We'll move on to B, resolution authorizing the Marion Township Administrator to execute a memorandum of understanding with Dynamic Security Concepts, Inc., better known as Dsci.
Mayor Kane, may I say something?
Please, Ms. Hopkins.
Okay. What this is one of the companies I own, Dynamic Security Concepts. We do hacking. We do professional pen test hacking for the federal government. And we've been asked to provide a mentoring for about 90 days. And what it really is question and answers. In our world, we come in and we're the independent testers. But there is a huge gap between where we are and what we do and where the township is and where they are now. They're just getting the ball rolling on security. They've had some really good scores and they've really got a grasp on it. But there's a lot of space in what do we get for software to compromise a network and how do we configure it? There's a lot of really generic questions that they could pay a lot of money to bring a consultant in and answer. But I'm willing to have our folks just available by phone to just answer the one-off questions. My hope is that over a very short period of about 90 days, we get your Hamilton Township folks indoctrinated into the security technology, that they get a good warm fuzzy for what they're doing. Our hands are not going to go on the keyboard. This is strictly an advisory position. All we're doing is we're on the other phone answering calls, much like you'd help a new friend get a job. It's a talent that we have that I want to offer up to the community. It's a very short-term period. We are not going to touch the keyboard. We are not going to be doing any out-and-out testing. At the end of that, we may come back and we may make a recommendation to them that maybe they need a type of SOC. Chief, you would know what that is. It's a security operating center. If they don't do that, we may say, you know what? Go with the security information and event structure. I don't really know what to tell them to do because I'm not in that IT portion, nor are my people. But I would hate to see you guys pay for someone to come in for 90 days to tell you what you need, when we can come in, answer questions, get your folks really smart, and then step back and they'll know which direction to go in because they understand the language enough. It's like learning a new language. You just have to be able to walk through it. So the purpose of this is to be full disclosure in the public that I'm going to have a few of our local residents of both Hamilton Township and Summers Point and Egg Harbor City working in a dialogue with our IT staff, with Officer Zambone and some of the other folks, to just over a 90-day period get everybody smart. That was the whole purpose of this. And then you guys should be launched and ready to go, and you'll be able to know which direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I want to give you some direction.
Yes, sir.
My direction is, my question is, are you being compensated for this?
No.
So my direction to you is that you should step down from the dais and abstain from the vote anyway.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you for putting that on the record, Mr. Speaker.
Did the audience have any questions? Is there any issues or concerns over what I'm offering?
Can we hear from Greg Simbrone or in regards to this?
Oh, do you want to come up here, Greg?
This is something Sue and I have talked about in length, and the resolution is something that Captain Alcott and myself asked, along with her, just so there was full disclosure, so there wasn't any questions or anything like that on that we're doing something that we shouldn't be doing. So I welcome it. I think it's great for the township. It just gives us another level of protection. So I'm in full support of it.
Good.
Any other questions or comments?
Joe, when you and I spoke today, you had spoke about getting to a different level with the JIF. Could you kind of elaborate how this could help us with that?
Yeah, so our joint insurance fund, that's the insurance company that backs the township. There are 3 levels of internet security, cybersecurity. And if you are able to reach to the top tier, you get the full deductible of your insurance back. And I believe that deductible is up to $50,000 or $60,000 right now. Oh, sure. Sorry about that. So we're part of the joint insurance fund. Our joint insurance fund is our insurance company of the township, right? And as part of this JIF aspect, they have 3 levels of cybersecurity in which you have to become compliant to get a certain amount of deductibles back for your insurance. There's 3 levels, 3 tiers. We're at the first tier, I believe, sir. And we have a strong initiative to get to the top tier. We want to be cyber secure, right? So this initiative is going to help us dive into those and make sure we can enhance any of our cybersecurity through a mentorship program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If there aren't any, I will entertain a motion. Let it be noted that Ms. Hopkins has left the dais.
I think she left the building.
Lucky.
I'll motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Cheek,
Second.
a second by Mr. Vitale. Rita, can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek,
Yes.
Mrs. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Vitale,
I had a lot of questions about this. I spoke with Joe. It's great to hear that Greg reached out and ask for help with this. With Bob Sandman's blessing that everything's on the up and up. Hopefully this gets us to the next tier and we can save a little bit of money. So I vote yes.
Mayor Kane?
I want to thank Sue for allowing the donating this time, whatever time may be necessary for the chief and his staff to ask the questions and get those questions asked. And I vote yes.
All yes and carried.
Do we want to let her know? Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. I wish I could do that with my Sue.
Resolution for.
I don't care.
Oh, there's somebody here. So I said, oh, I moved to somebody. Well, we're discussing separately or no? Or you tell me. Oh, okay. All right. At this point, we're going to move on to 8 consent agenda. We have items A through K. Any questions or comments on those items? Anyone want to segregate anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Oh, so moved.
I have a motion by Ms.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'd just like to remove K.
Okay, so I would ask you to amend your motion for A through J, please.
Oh, in the motion, A through J.
Could I get a second by Mr. Patali? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Now we have K. Mr. Patali?
So this is the Second Amendment resolution. This has been going back and forth now for a couple of years. COVID kind of got in the way. It kind of got lost in the shuffle. But it got brought back up again by some concerned citizens. Basically, it's just us passing a resolution saying that we are pro Second Amendment. And that's the whole gist of it. Bob, did you want to say anything on this? We all good?
It goes a little bit beyond. There are movements nationwide, statewide, local-wide that are trying to abridge the right of citizens to own, purchase, and bear arms. And those laws are starting to emulsify and grow in different places. And what this does, in addition to what you just said, Carl, is it takes a philosophical stand against any legislative body taking actions which would unconstitutionally infringe anyone's right to purchase, bear, and own arms. And I, for one, am one of those people.
I believe, Mr. Cheek, I know you have some pretty strong feelings about this too. Anything you might want to add?
No, it's just that it opposes any legislation whatsoever that would change this. So it's basically, in my opinion, putting us on record that we oppose change.
And I think the public should know also that the solicitor did the research on this and provided us with some guidance at no charge to the township. So, thank you, Mr. Solicitor.
Glad to do it.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments?
Isn't this something that should be brought before the state?
It can be delivered to the state once the resolution is approved. It could be delivered to every representative of any body that represents any people that live in this township. That would be Congress on down to you guys.
I'm thinking about one of the things that I saw at the state level where their husband and wife situations where the husband was still allowed to carry an arm even though he had threatened his wife many times, wanting to.
There's laws that address that.
Yeah.
And those
So
laws are...
is that taking away his amendment right to have the gun to shoot his wife?
No, absolutely not. He has a constitutional right of due process and equal protection to be heard in a court of law, to tell a judge of competent jurisdiction why he should still have the right to own and bear arms. Bearing arms is a difficult thing. It's one thing to have a shotgun in the back of your car driving out to the woods than to have a loaded handgun.
Yeah.
But a judge of competent jurisdiction could stop, through a restraining order, anyone who threatens anyone, as long as that judge believes proofs to be that overwhelming.
Well, how are we supposed to address all the shootings that are happening in Philadelphia?
I wish I could answer that.
Excuse me?
Got it, please.
I can't answer that.
Okay, I'm just, my parents were in business for over 40 years, never owned a gun. And that was at Lenape Park. And they didn't, so
Well,
that's,
I appreciate
that is one area where I come from. Although we have a musket, but it's going to take a lot of time to fill that out. But it's to me is the idea that people can carry guns and use them when they get angry, road rage, that type of thing.
You need a license. You need a license to carry a handgun.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
Mrs. Link, I can offer personal experience. I am a gun owner. I have legally registered guns, and I keep them for protection. One at my business, at my home, for my personal protection and protection of my employees. And unfortunately, I had the situation arise where I had to go to that weapon at my place of business at night with customers and people in the building for a situation that had nothing to do with my business. It happened to be someone driving down the pike, as you know, 35,000 cars a day traverse that, and sought refuge in my parking lot because they saw the lights. They ran into the glass doors in the front of my building, shattering those buildings with people in there, got out of the car, fighting one another, trying to get into the building with one of them screaming the other one has a gun. I am very fortunate that I am a gun owner, and I had one also. Once I announced that I had one, showed that I had one, that situation diffused in moments. Fortunately, the cops were right behind it. They caught the individuals in the property next door. And, I don't know how that would have turned out if I did not have that opportunity. It could have been a lot worse. I can't tell you what the option is, but I do know that wait just one second here. That I am very fortunate that I had a weapon at that time. I believe that it averted a situation getting much worse. So if they're used correctly and treated with the respect that they deserve, we have the right to possess them. So,
yeah, but the person who came in to present this was complaining about how they have to keep their guns locked, the ammunition somewhere else, and so on and so forth. These were not just owning the gun, but it was the conditions under which they owned the gun. And is that what?
Well, this is not giving any rights to people that are not trying to own a gun lawfully. I mean, we're not circumventing any system where a person still has to obtain it lawfully. So that's, I want to make that perfectly clear.
We're basically saying that we don't want the Second Amendment taken away from us, basically. And like has been said by Mr. Sandman, laws just keep coming. And there's a concern that eventually that may happen. It's everybody says, you're crying wolf, whatever. This is just something saying, hey, the majority of us up here on this dais support the Second Amendment. And that's it.
If there's no other discussion on the motion, I'll entertain a motion to move K, please.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Vitale, second by Mr. Cheek. Thank you. And Rita, could we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek,
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
No.
Mr. Vitale,
Yes.
Mayor Kane.
Yes.
4 yes, 1 no. Motion carries.
All right. We'll move on to 9, personnel. A, resolution 2022-086, appointing fund commissioner and alternative fund commissioner to Atlantic County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund for calendar year 2022. That person that is named is our administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Motion. I have a motion by Ms. Hopkins, a second by Mr. Vitale. Rita, we need a roll call on that. Can we just do it's personnel? You want it? No? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right. We'll move on to B. B is resolution appointing Angela D. Harris Moore as Planning Board Alternate Number 1 for the unexpired term ending 12/31/22. This comes at a request. We have a vacancy, and she has submitted an application. She has the full support of our Planning Board Chairman, and I see her here this evening with us. Thank you very much for attending. And if there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to appoint her, please.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mrs. Hopkins.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vitale. Rita, roll call, please.
Mr. Cheek? Oh,
Like,
sorry.
Left the way.
I'll just pass.
Yep.
Ms. Hopkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes, I would say that maybe there's other people also who would like to be on the planning board. It didn't seem to afford them that, let me say, opportunity. But Angela looks, as I'm reading her information for the first time, she looks very qualified, and I will vote yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
I just want to point out, Mrs. Link, that I am not in possession of any other applications that weren't considered. This one was sent in, it's been considered, and that's what we're doing here this evening. So I vote yes.
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Okay.
All yes and
Congratulations, and thank you for your volunteerism. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 10, approvals, minutes, regular meeting minutes of March 7th, 2022. Committee?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Vitale,
Second.
second by Mr. Cheek. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, ayes have it. B, bill list, total $4,479,375.63.
So
I'm sorry? Did I get that wrong? $4,479,300. $479,375.63.
No, Carl will vote for that one. The one with the dollars first.
I don't see Carl jumping to this, but you want us to
Come
give
on,
you
Carl,
time?
go for
So
it.
moved.
Oh!
Second.
Well,
Carl
All
went for it.
right,
I'm
I got a
going
motion
for
by
it.
Mr. Vitale, second by Mr. Cheek. Rita, can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cheek?
Yes.
Ms. Hopkins?
yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mayor Kane?
Yes.
All yes
Police.
and carried.
Next, we'll move on to reports. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick report. Over the last 2 weeks, had many mayor meetings and tours with the township, including transition meetings with the township administrator, from department head meetings, including division chiefs to discuss operations, finance staff, et cetera. Forthcoming meetings will be intended to dive into operations, initiatives, and improvements, and we will look further into exploring shared services to ensure more savings and improve operations. As you know, the township did go through the DCA Fire District Assessment Report and does validate the township's efforts to ensure coordinated and more efficient fire operations. And we're looking for exploring more operations in that report. We're going to dive further into the historical review of pocket sites to address any invalidations and correct the designation process as well. And we look to explore expanding our grant opportunities in the future for more resources for the township. We are also exploring additional ways to assist businesses recover and grow within the township. And we'll look at the sunsetting outdoor dining legislation coming in November as well, as well as other opportunities.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Solicitor.
First of all, I'd like to welcome Joe on board. Secondly, I sat in the audience, Cindy, and listened to your presentation. You and the subcommittee deserve a lot of credit from the folks in this community. As your solicitor, I thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Sandman. The man.
Short and brief. Judy, Sue, Brett, and I visited, probably 15 different roads, I think, last week. Try to start to come up with a list for roads that we can apply for grants, roads that need attention, and kind of start the process. So that's something we just started last week, and obviously there'll be more to come on that. Other than that, unless there's any comments about 3rd Street, so far so good. Just keep it rolling.
Yes.
I have a comment.
Oh.
Save the tree, by the way.
The other tree, the one tree that's closest to Route 50.
The one by the cemetery.
Not on the cemetery side, the other side.
Oh, okay.
One that looks like it's dead.
Guyverson's property. Yeah, Guyverson's old house. I don't know who owns it now. I thought that one was getting removed. Brett, were we going to remove that? Because that's right up against the curb.
I think it is. I'll check and make sure.
Because when I went by, it looked like they were cutting the tree itself to make room for the
I
curb.
think the only one we were saving was the one a little bit further down. Everything else was.
Yeah, the one further down. I thought that one was coming out.
There's actually, I think 3 stumps were already, the trees were taken down. We're grinding the stumps. But that one, I believe, was to come out because I think, Brad mentioned, I think it was diseased.
Yeah, other than that, it looks great. It's
They're moving along.
good.
Yeah,
And it's
really
moving
does.
along.
Yeah.
Let's not jinx it.
It's torn up, but you can see what the finished product's going to be like.
Yeah, on the weekends when they're not working, you can go down 3rd Street at your peril, probably.
Don't do it on a Harley. Take it. I can tell you from firsthand experience.
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
That's it. Fantastic. Township Committee. Mrs. Link.
I have an announcement to make. They're having a Veterans Casino Fair on April 28th between 10 and 1. And I'm not sure exactly where it's going to take place, but I think you could go online and find out about this. This is jobs and opportunities for veterans. If you could, somehow I didn't put the address down, but I think this would be very good for our veterans and opportunities for our veterans because they are so well qualified and they're not finding the jobs that they should be finding. So maybe a Veterans Casino Fair will be very helpful. So,
Is that being put on by our VFW or is that? You know?
I'll have to reach out. It's on the 28th, and it's between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Joe, if she gets you the information, if it's something that, if it's sponsored by our local VFW, if it's something we could get up on the website, and if we could get it on the a sign on at Gasco Point, if it's appropriate, I'd appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah,
she'll get you the information.
Yeah, I did hear about it at the Veterans Advisory Board.
All right. Anything else?
Okay.
Mr. Patali?
I'm sure most everybody knows that we did get the money from the federal government, the $4.6 million for the dam repair. That's a big one. That was huge, and a lot of thanks goes out to a lot of people. Everybody who signed that petition, the various businesses throughout town that wrote letters.
Mm-hmm.
All the work that the chief to get out on the Nixle and on the website to help us to get the petition out there. The different commissioners. Sorry, Commissioner Gatto, of course, and then all the other ones that jumped in and pushed this forward. And a big thanks to Jeff Van Drew for doing all the whole hard work to get it into the bill. That was the heavy lift, and then to keep pushing for it. We got it over the finish line. We got the money. Now there's a little bit of a hitch that comes along with it. That money has to be allocated by October 1st. So originally it looked like it was going to go out to bid at the end of the year. Now it's going to get sped up. It has to go out to bid well before October 1st. And so the next meeting, the AM committee meeting, was supposed to be next Monday. I was able to move it up a couple of days. I tried to get it a little bit sooner than that, but we got it up to this Wednesday, to sit down with WSP, who's the engineer that's designing it, tell them what's going on. And I'm sure they're going to WSP is going to come back and say, well, that's going to be overtime, so that's going to cost you a little bit more money. And, it is what it is. I get it. I'm in the business too. So, but I think if it's a little bit more money that we have to pay for design to expedite it, it's going to be money well spent, because we got that $4.6 million.
To add, we will be responsible for 1.5 million.
Whatever it comes out to be.
And the Atlantic County
is responsible for the other half.
And
Yep.
so we all have to work together on this. I was kind of curious, what is the bill number that it got passed on? Do you know?
It wasn't out. It hasn't gone out to bid yet. I mean, we were.
No, I mean for the Congress, what was the bill number?
I don't know that infrastructure bill. It wasn't the infrastructure
know,
bill.
I
It was the funding bill to keep the government moving.
Oh, okay. I just am curious.
It's an appropriations bill.
Yeah,
Appropriations,
it was,
and what was the result of it? How many people? How was the vote that happened?
I'm off the top. I'm sorry. All I know is it passed, and that's all that I cared about.
Okay, yeah.
I can't tell you how the vote broke down.
I would like to sort of know that, but maybe Joe can find that out for me.
Thank you for thanking everyone else. We know that there was a heavy lift from a lot of people in order to make this happen. And of course, Congressman Van Drew listening to the concerns, bringing those concerns before Congress, and putting the spotlight here on South Jersey. We appreciate that. But I do want to say we appreciate your efforts. We know that you kept that committee on task, and the result is what we were discussing here tonight. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. You did a fantastic job.
You're welcome.
In coordinating everything.
I'm not good at taking things like that, because, like I said, it was a lot of people. It wasn't just me. But like I said, that the heavy lift is now. It's important. We got to keep our foot on the pedal. We got to get this done. We got to get all that work done. So hopefully on Wednesday, we can find out. I'm sure there may be some resolutions that we have to pass to do certain things, whatever. But we'll figure it out, and we will get to the end zone. No problem. Yeah, we will. We will get to the finish line.
We got 2.3 million reasons to get there.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And I can assure you that if we need special meetings, whatever we need to do, we're going to do it.
So. It's only 2 meetings a month. That's what you told me.
Only
2 meetings a month.
Carl, with this expedited schedule, do you think we'll have to increase the meetings?
I don't think so. I don't think so. As long as everybody's on the same page, and we get them moving the way I think they're going to.
Well, if you have to, we have to.
If we have to, we have to. Absolutely, we'll do whatever we have to get through there. That's really all I have. That was the big thing for me. And Joe, good job out there on 3rd Street. Looks great. Looking forward to it, to seeing that get done. Is there any chance that the work that is in front of the school could be done while they're out on Easter? Or is that too much work to get that done?
I guess we'll see where they are at that point. The idea is to come up just before it, stop, and then come back and do the finished paving. I don't know. We'll see how they are schedule-wise. If that's a possibility, I'm sure they'd prefer to get it done and get out of there.
Yeah, that would be good.
They actually got some of the drainage work is going to be done. So I think the biggest problem we're going to have is there's a lot of concrete work going to have to go down there
Yeah.
before they can even do the asphalt. So doing all that within a week is probably going to be tough.
I think it might be a little bit
If it was
too big of a lift.
Milling and overlaying and paving, it definitely can be done. But with all the concrete work that's going to be on the school side, that might be a little difficult.
So we might actually see a little period of time where there'll be no work going on.
Correct. Yeah, until school releases in June, and then get back to it.
Okay.
Yeah, if it wasn't for all that concrete and sidewalk, I think you could, but in a week, and then all of a sudden you get bad weather, and you've got it tore up, and then buses are coming back, and then you're really up against the backboard at that point.
So fingers crossed. Like I said, good job out there. Thank you. That's really it for me. Reagan, Maddie, miss you. Love you. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Ms. Hopkins.
Carlson. I'm working on a road improvement plan with Judy and Brett. We're looking at the prioritization of the roads, and I'm trying to kind of document the criteria for prioritization and then making sure that we follow that objective criteria for roads that are getting paved and sidewalks, and making sure park roads high up on that list to get the sidewalks, and we look for the grants and stuff. So we'll be working that through and laying it out. That's about all I've got. Good work with meeting with the neighbors at Park Road, and I look forward to having more discussions with more folks as we move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Cheek.
Okay, first of all, I have to thank Cynthia. It was my first time on a budget committee, and I learned a lot in a long time. So what a good job it was, and enjoyable. Second of all, for Brett, the MLAA field house, I don't know if anyone went down Old Egg Harbor Road, looks great. What a great job. And baseball season is starting, so it was perfect timing. And besides that, keep your prayers for the people in Ukraine. And also I echo the thoughts with Carl with the dam. What a great job. That's it.
All right. Quickly, I just wanted to mention the planning board has undertaken a process that's been quite some time now, I think well over a year. And in conjunction with our engineer's office to re-examine the master plan as we're required to do. 38 pages of recommendations and areas that we need to address moving forward to update our master plan. I'd just like to thank all those volunteers, all the public officials here in this building that lent a hand to those individuals, to the subcommittees. This is not exciting work, folks. They give freely of their time, and 38 pages of recommendations to update that. And our Miss Dix was in the audience, and she brought up some very good questions, added value input, and I appreciate that. But there's some really great stuff in here. This copy, this should be a matter of public record. Please research it, take a look at it. If there's anything you want to add as the public to the recommendations, please just reach out to us, and we'll see what we can do to consider those things. All right. And that's all I have. So with that, I will open it up to the public. Mr. Rogers. Sorry, Elaine, he beat you. It was first. He was up.
No grandkid today, Harry?
Not today. Harry Rogers, 1069 Morningside Drive. I've been on the planning board for about 9 years. And Mrs. Link brought up the application for the medical marijuana facility out in the location of the barbecue place. I forget the name. Yeah, it is a difficult place to get to, and businesses have failed because of that particular location. But I take a lot of offense that Mrs. Link would accuse the planning board of holding clandestine meetings, illegal meetings, not considering traffic reports, and not adding any input for public safety. As a matter of fact, Mrs. Lake, there was a significant change made in the traffic engineer's report for that application to add, to extend the slowdown ramp And this went back and forth with the board for hours. You've been sitting on the board for at least 12 years. Your lack of understanding of the planning board process is really disturbing. It really is. I can't believe that you would make those accusations. And you did. And my other comment tonight has to do also on the cannabis topic. There was a report just published yesterday by one of the organizations under the John Hopkins Group that, what a surprise, marijuana is a gateway drug. It leads to addiction. The fact that the people in New Jersey and the people in Hamilton Township voted for it, well, you can't go against that. But I applaud the board's efforts to make this as law-abiding as possible. Thank you.
Harry, thank you for your comments, and thank you for your service to this township. We appreciate that. Ms. Dix?
First, I'll just comment, Carl, what you were saying, it just clicked while you were saying October 1. September 30th is the last day of the fiscal year for the federal government. That probably is the trigger point, and it affects the grants for after that. That's what I'm thinking is as a reaction to that. Now, Emily, I'm going to be talking to you. I'm going to be talking to them, but I'm talking to you. I file a lot of Oprahs, you know it. I file Oprahs on the Pinelands, and I look at lots of documents. And as an aside, I hope these boards, planning, zoning, you, industrial commission, do not go to electronic filing. You need those packages so you can look at the documents. And Richie, I'll refer to June, and I never publicly thanked you for stopping it because what you did have to look at wasn't the right stuff. I got an Oprah from I'm talking about the big fold-out thing, and this fold-out didn't match what was up there. You know what I'm talking about. I have an Oprah from Pinelands, and there's a bunch of handwriting on it, and on this one diagram. So I printed it, and then I put it in my printer, my copier, and I magnified it. I still can't read it. If I can't read electronic filings, nobody else can either, even if I have my glasses on. So I'm anti-electronic filing, but having said that, I'm leading now to over here. One of the documents I've reviewed was dated December 15th. I must choose my words with extreme care, so I'm trying to be a little bit vague, but you should be able to follow me. If a report is dated the 15th of December, that project had to be in the works for 2 to 3 to 4 months before December 15th when the report was written. Because to go on somebody else's property and do testing, you have to have permission. And so apparently these early discussions are supposed to happen with the redevelopment attorneys on authorization from this committee, that the redevelopment attorneys can speak to anybody that wants to talk to them about redeveloping this floor right here. Has to be pre-approved so you know something's happening. At that point, there's no reason for any project to come up as a late list notice because it's been in the cooker for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. I don't know when it started. As a part of that, I think this committee has the obligation to then bring in our police department and get a traffic study. When I say traffic study, I don't mean an engineer's traffic study. I mean a report, the number of accidents, the number of tickets, the number of DUIs, all the information I'm now trying to extract from an Oprah I filed, which is very difficult if you don't know the little codes. I think it's imperative that in the future, the next time you're going to do a redevelopment agreement, it has to have a report coming in from our traffic bureau. So you understand, and the subject tonight regarding traffic at a certain place doesn't happen anymore because it's been a very, very difficult period of time. So hopefully we're going to have this not happen again.
What happened? I'm confused.
When
Tell me what happened.
when you put on the late list in January of January 19th of 2021, there was a late list item for redevelopment. It was just a block and a lot. I didn't pay much attention to it. It was flipped over to the planning board. It came up at the planning board meeting. It was flipped back to the township committee in a short period of time, and the planner wrote a 1.5-page report on this potential redevelopment project. That's where it went wrong. There should have been input from the police regarding this type of proposal at this specific location and any future redevelopment location before we get so far into it that it goes to the planning board and engineering money and lawyer money and planner money and traffic studies are being done at the planning board level. It needs to be done long before that regarding this issue of traffic.
Ms. Stix, you understand that the applicant is paying for that. They're paying for the studies with the professionals.
Oh, I understand.
And the chief will tell you, I think the chief in this township is engaged more often for site plan applications than any other.
I don't want to be at site plan. I don't want it to get as far as going to the planning board. I want the information here. So Judy did bring it up in that meeting, meaning at the township committee meeting, about being concerned about traffic. But by then it had already been to the planning board and come back and say, yeah, it's a good idea. I'm saying before you send something to the planning board, have the police department give you a police report on the situation of that immediate area so that you'll know. I can't say too much more.
I appreciate what you're saying, but we can't exclude an applicant from submitting an application and asking for an application to be heard based on whatever. Listen, if the chief disagrees, we still can't stop that applicant from going ahead with the application. We can take his notes, we can add them to our professional's report so the planning board can hear that discussion.
I don't want to talk about the planning board. I want to talk about the redevelopment attorney who then makes a recommendation to the township committee, and the township committee then makes a recommendation by voting, should we go forward with this, send it to the planning board for their input. It shouldn't get that far. I'm saying when they bring something to you, that the police department should have their input at that early stage before anybody's spending too much money.
Your comments are well taken, Ms. Stix.
Hopefully you're understanding what I can't say.
I'm gonna allow you to continue to go ahead and voice your comments.
No, I made these couple things. I wanted to make sure I got that in. And Carl, you're concerned about the industrial park. When a hospital was going to go in there, I have a find my lot size on my computer, and you could put in somebody's address and you could do square footage or you could do linear. And I went to that lot in the industrial park, and I went to the VOTEC school to make sure that 1,000-foot measurement could be met. I believe that's on Pinewood is the name of the street. So, and I believe it's page 37 on the tax map is that section of the industrial park. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time on a lot of stuff lately. So what I'm saying is, I don't understand about the 250 feet. When we have so much land in the industrial park, there's so many places that you could take the top corner of Hess on Babcock, and I don't mean the structure, I mean the lot size where the fields are. Take that and measure 1,000 feet toward the courthouse, and we're not going to be anywhere near a school. You've got room in that direction, and then same thing in the other direction. If you cross Babcock and measured 1,000 feet from there, we're not going to be anywhere near the special services. You got plenty of room along Oakwood Boulevard. So I think there's a lot of opportunity without getting too close to the schools.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to speak? Please. You just state your name and address for the record. I'd appreciate it.
Sorry. Good evening. My name is Dominic Branca, and I live in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey. And I'm a representative of the Garden State Second Amendment organization. And I want to thank everyone up here in the committee for taking time and looking into this and understanding what our gun rights are. And some of you mentioned that there are laws on the books that, may be signed into, and they're frivolous, unjust laws. And I appreciate you guys are the 14th municipality along with Atlantic County, to agree to this resolution. And that just proves that you guys are, honoring the Constitution that you took an oath to do. And I appreciate that. America thanks you. And Ms. Link, I know you did mention that, your parents owned a business and they never owned a gun. And God bless them. That is their, prerogative. But we as Americans, in our Second Amendment, we have the right to own and bear firearms. As long as we do it legally and justly, we are absolutely able to own firearms. And if you ever have any questions about New Jersey gun laws, feel free to look us up, ask us questions, and we can work together and we can, educate each other about your concerns and what our concerns are as law-abiding gun owners. Again, I just want to say thank you very much for putting the time in, looking into this for us.
Have a great night. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to speak? Mr. Balicki.
Harry Balicki, Chairman of the Planning Board. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank you and the rest of the Township Committee for appointing Ms. Moore to the Planning Board. You've seen her resume in front of you. I don't think you'll find a more qualified person. I've known Angela for a number of years. She's one that really genuinely cares about the community. And I think you're going to find her be a welcome addition to our team.
Look forward to serving with her.
So thank you very much.
Very good. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to speak? Sir? If you'd be kind enough to state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is John Oldfield. I'm a new resident of Hamilton Township from California. For the last 2 years, I've been trying to be a resident of Hamilton Township and dealing with Pinelands and different departments.
Yeah, you gotta speak louder.
Yeah. So my question is, I had an open item on the docket. Rita educated me today about what I need to do to go in further. And so I wanted to make sure that that item wasn't open on the docket. The other question I have is that 30% of my property tax that I'm paying on 6 properties that I've purchased on Railroad Boulevard, I cannot get trash cans to get rid of the garbage from the last 70 years and also all the garbage on Massachusetts Avenue that I have been continuously trying to vacate. I humbly ask that I make a payment into the Public Works so I can get trash cans, but because I do not have a residence on the location, I am told I cannot have trash cans, but yet 30% of my property taxes go to that. Is there a possibility or is there a means to get a variance for trash cans until the end of the year so I can clean up my proposed agricultural farm on zoned out agricultural land? Because I keep getting all the catch-22s. I can have a shed, I can't have a shed, I can cut down the trees, I can't cut down the trees, I can do this, I can't do that. So as we all know, dealing with the Pinelands Commissions is rather difficult, and I'm trying to do everything in my due diligence to do it by the letter of the law, not spirit of the law. So in regards to that, can this council give me direction on what I'm supposed to do with the public trash that has been deposited on these 22 acres that I now own? That includes tires, car, gas tanks, gallons of oil, and those items on there. And I am more than willing to get rid of that and pay for the disposal of it. And even the items that are on Massachusetts Avenue that has been governed by Hamilton Township as a paper street for the last X amount of years. Also is, if I can approach, I'd like to make a donation to the Green Team as well.
Well, I assume the Green Team has opportunities for investments. I'm not sure, or donations. But as far as, I'll take a stab at this, Joe. It's private property. I don't know what the requirement is without having a residence on there for the trash can, but for the same money that you're offering to pay for the trash cans, wouldn't it just be appropriate to get a dumpster from a private company and have that dumpster hauled away after you're done your cleanup?
I'm trying to get a residence there, and I'm a farm as well. Pineland says that I must have a farm first before I have a occupational housing for the furtherance of the business. So what am I supposed to do with my garbage as a business? Get a dumpster?
Mary, if I may, Waste Management does have something called the Bagster, where it allows, it's a larger, essentially it's a bag that opens up almost like a container.
Okay.
When you can get them at Home Depot or another facility like that, and when you fill it up, you call Waste Management, they will come in and just pick that up. It extends, I think, up to 15, 20 feet, almost like a normal trash container.
Never knew I had that option. Thank you.
That is, I don't know what the cost is on that one, but if you just contact Home Depot, or I can look into it and you give me a number, I can give you a call on it. It's no problem.
And once you establish residence, reach out to us and we'll get you those cans. All right. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to speak? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. At this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session, redevelopment, contract negotiations, attorney-client privilege. Mr. Solicitor, will we be taking action and coming back out? All right. We reserve the right to come back into public and take action. So I will entertain a motion at this time. I have a motion to go into executive session for Ms. Hopkins. Could I get a second, please?
Sure, second.
I have a second for Mr. Patali. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you.
Be it resolved by the
Yeah.
Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting is adjourned to an executive session to discuss the following matters, which are exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law: redevelopment,
Thank you.
contract negotiations, and attorney-client privilege. Be it further resolved that the governing body may reconvene in public session to confirm the results of the executive session. Be it further resolved that the results of the executive session shall be made known as soon as the basis for confidentiality is no longer confidential.